Hi, this is Nathan. Welcome to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod.
Howdy, Andrew Sabo here. We're just getting ready for a time of humor, analysis, and excitement. Would you like to join us? Then get ready, because you never know what could happen when you listen to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod.
If not after NovaCon, he might become... Anyways, doesn't matter. And so... No, he is there in NovaCon. I take it back. But, no wait, is that after? Frick, post-NovaCon stuff's running together. Yeah. I really need to get off this tangent. So, no, he is definitely there during NovaCon.
Yeah.
Okay, so Wooten's there during NovaCon.
Yeah, because...
But only towards the end. Yep, okay, alright. Glad I cleared that up. Hello and welcome to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod. I'm Dylan.
I'm Andrew Sabo. You forgot your last name, buddy.
I did forget my last name. It's really weird. We're doing this one remotely.
Yeah.
Because, it's that time of year.
It's quarantine o'clock, my guys. And it's rough.
So
the county of Lancaster is officially on lockdown, and I'm only allowed to leave my house to go to the grocery store or go to work. And I work at a grocery store, so fun times for Andrew.
Yep, and I am in a very similar boat, as I imagine is most of the country. So yeah, we're giving this a shot, and who knows, maybe you'll never even hear this episode.
Maybe, who knows? Technology isn't always our friend. Sometimes it hurts us a lot.
Yeah, shout out to those fun episodes where we have weird delay on them.
Yep. Oh boy, those are so
good times. I'm looking at you, Plan B, part 1, 2, 3, and 4, I think.
Yeah, which is such a shame because those were such good episodes.
Not to mention our really, really good episodes with Aubrey that we had to re-record.
Yep. Yeah, that was so disappointing. I mean, I think it was still good the second time around, but it was definitely it hurt. It hurt to can those.
It was one of my favorite episodes when we were recording it, and then we could not use the audio.
Yep, because of course.
It's fun. Anyways, we're hoping we're not going to have that this week.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Because we're going to talk about episode 286, Tom for Mayor, part 1.
Yes, sir.
We are jumping ahead quite a bit in the Adventures in Odyssey timeline. This episode first aired October 29th of 1994, which was over 2 years after Double Trouble, the last episode we covered, and 4 years since One Bad Apple, an episode that this is like a direct sequel to.
Yeah, and like they definitely recap it pretty well, but like also
they do. Yeah. Also, so this is track 1 on album 22, Changing Times. And the big important thing for us in this episode is, at least in this run of us covering things, it's our first episode post Hal Smith.
Oh.
So
interesting. That's right, because Jack is the wit right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
So episode 271, Secret Keys of Discipline, was the last episode Hal Smith recorded.
Mm-hmm.
And then Wit was written out of the show in episode 280, Gone, where he leaves for the Middle East. And this is episode 286. So this is really hot on the heels of
Wit being gone.
Wit's departure from the show. And so we have Jack coming in as Wit's stand-in in this episode, which listeners to NovaCom and whatnot are pretty well acquainted with Jack. But this is a big turning point.
It is a big turning point, and it's something that I kind of always thought that Hal Smith was the Whitaker for all of the Blackgaard stuff, but actually there's a large amount of it where he's not.
Yep. Yeah, so it is we're in a new era. And kind of on top of all that, 1992. So this was actually Double Trouble fell into this as well. Is when they changed the Adventures in Odyssey theme song for the first time.
Yeah.
And the really unfortunate thing is that we do not have an instrumental track for that theme song. We only have the ones that broadcast on the radio with the voices over top. So for the first time in the history of the Wad Fam Chalk Pod, last week went out with an episode where the theme song on our episode did not match the one on the actual episode.
Yeah. Which is strange. I think it's interesting that we do that. Like it's definitely it's a very Dylan thing to do, to go that little extra mile for really no actual benefit, but
Right. So if by any chance there's someone out there who happens to have the instrumental version for the 92 to 98 theme, contact me, please.
Yeah. I mean, we'll Venmo you a sheep or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And until that point, I did make the decision to go with the 98 to 2001 theme, the theme that we used during Novacom.
Cool.
Just because, so with the 92 switch, it's where they add the clips from the episodes after that. And they do the same thing with the Novacom run. So yeah, we jumped into the future with our theme, just because it was,
it was
thought
necessary.
That was better than using the old one. But it was genuinely a bummer when I was putting together last week's episode and was like, oh shoot,
no more.
I don't have the correct theme, and I'm not going to for basically the rest of this series.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
sorry, had to adjust my chair.
So I'm real sorry about that Chalk Squad.
It's a
we're
burden.
We're doing our best.
Well, I mean, I'm proud of us for working through this setback. As a podcast that's normally recorded face to face, this is very, very different. But Dylan forbids me from watching my vocals go up and down on Audacity, so this is very nice for me.
Yeah, that was an early decision because the first couple times we recorded, there was a monitor that faced both Andrew and I that showed the waveforms of us being recorded.
Yeah.
And multiple times every episode, I would catch Andrew staring at that instead of talking. So I stopped him from looking at it. But I can't do that when he's in his house.
It's true. Well, and I also think that I'm better at recording this podcast now, so I think I can talk and look at the waves at the same time.
That's probably fair.
Yeah. With that being said, we should probably move on with the episode.
Yeah.
Do we have any new cast for this one?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a real big cast, which was really fun.
Yeah.
I was happy with getting to see everyone who makes an appearance here. It's a lot of our classics.
Is this our first Jack Allen episode? No, Jack was in Novacom.
Correct. But of this run, it's our first Jack.
Yeah.
So we've got Alan Young playing Jack Allen. And then we've got Corey Burton as Bill Jenkins, the mayor, as Crying Brian Dern, and as Agent Frank Ernest. Bob Luttrell plays Bert Furter.
As in Frank?
Kyle Ellison is back as Sam Johnson. We previously talked about Sam in The Twilight Zone. That's the chicken episode.
Our favorite series.
Hey, I love that series.
I know. Dylan has such a deep love for The Twilight Zone that, I love it. I think it's great. But Dylan loves it.
I love it so much, and nobody else in the Odyssey realm seems to agree with me on that, and it's fine.
It's fine. I'm not hurt. You are.
Yeah, exactly. We also have Paul McCusker back as Philip Glossman. Our normal cast of characters, and then a really weird thing that I can't tell if this is a mistake on the wiki or if this is actually true, but the news reporter that is doing the announcement when Mayor Jenkins resigns.
Yeah.
The character in the episode they refer to as Kurt Morse. And the AIO Wiki lists the voice actor for Kurt Morse as Kurt Morse. So I don't know if this is an actual dude and they just didn't change his name for the episode, or if the wiki wrote down the wrong thing in that field. But according to what the information I have in front of me, Kurt Morse voices Kurt Morse.
There you go. That's method acting right there. Method voice acting.
Method casting, maybe?
Yeah.
All right.
That being said, I think we move on to the promo, right?
Yeah, that is how we structure these episodes, even when we're remote.
Next time on Adventures in Odyssey, Tom Riley's life is turned upside down. Environmental inspectors are convinced that his farm has toxic chemicals on it. When election time rolls around in Odyssey, Tom wonders if the only way to fight back is to run for mayor himself. All that and more on the next Adventure in Odyssey.
Wow.
So that's the promo.
That's a lot. I'm not gonna lie, Dylan. I missed like half of that because I don't think it was loud enough for Discord to pick up it. But like what I heard, that was a lot. That was wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
If you want to listen to it on your end, you can. But I think you get the gist.
Oh, I get the gist. No, I don't know if I would ever subject myself to that again intentionally.
What are you telling me that the promos aren't always great?
Oh, they are not always great, Dylan. I'm sorry to break it to you.
Yeah. This is still kind of in the context section, but the version we listened to the version that's on the club. It would also be the one on CDs. The radio version is shorter.
Oh.
So this was an extended
by like how much
episode? I don't know, but there are. It seems to be that it lengthened scenes. It did not add any in.
Yeah. Well, it's like 25 minutes long, and I think the radio ones are normally 21, 23.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. And so, yeah, it has like an extended talk with between Tom and the mayor, and Tom and everyone back at Wits End with Bernard, and Jack's talking to Glossman at the farm. All of that stuff was either not present or shorter.
Okay.
But
that's interesting. That is definitely worth noting. So basically, this episode begins with our favorite sleazy politician Philip Glossman showing up at Tom Riley's, right?
Yeah, I know. Like, apparently, people have reached out and told me that like McCusker is on record saying like he doesn't like his voice. He didn't want to be Glossman. He kind of got like he didn't really realize what he was signing up for. He is so good.
Oh yeah, no, I mean Glossman is such a well acted character. Like he's just as good as Blackgaard in my opinion.
The performance is great. I loved it here.
It's very like House of Cards.
Yeah, it's not over the top in any way. It's being played very across the board. He's not quite that level of like Maxwell where he's like outwardly slimy.
Yeah.
But he's not Blackgaard where he's sinister.
Yeah.
He's just
greasy.
A bad person.
Yeah,
like,
he's just greasy.
He's so good.
Yeah, no, it's very well done, honestly. It's tremendous because he's not a caricature. You know what I mean? Like,
no,
Glossman is a very real life based character, whereas like even people like Blackgaard and henchman, Weasel Man, what's his name? Maxwell. Maxwell is like they're kind of larger than life as far as, you know, they're caricatures. They're less realistic, whereas Glossman himself is super I don't know. Yeah, realistic. It's something that, like, I'm pretty sure I've met people like Philip Glossman in my life, in politicians and not.
Yeah. And so Glossman shows up at Tom's at 6 a.m. And is very snarkily like, "Oh, did I wake you up?" And Tom's like, "No, I've been up. I'm a farmer."
Yeah, I was gonna say,
dang it,
I get up at 4:30 at least. If I sleep until 5, then, you know, I only do that in the winter.
Right. And it's just, Tom's immediately like on edge and kind of like mean towards Glossman, and Glossman he's just, this whole episode, he's so, he's playing everything very, like he's playing it like he's a nice guy,
Glossman?
but he's not. Yeah, he's
doing his job, basically.
Right. Like, he's playing everything very like, oh yeah, like, I'm just doing what I have to do, and I feel bad about it and whatnot, even though, like, the subtext is there that, like, he's not.
Yeah, no.
But, like, so Tom is mad at him because, you know, of course, he's mad at Blackgaard, he's mad at Maxwell, like, the whole thing where his you know, barn was burnt down. He can't tie that directly to Glossman, but he doesn't feel great about it. Then all your one bad apple stuff. And there's something else that's brought up in this episode that we didn't cover because it's not really related to Blackgaard, but was when Glossman was trying to get a highway to go through Tom's property using eminent domain.
Yeah, they recapped
but it would have
that.
But it would have it would have gone through Timmy's cabin, and so they ended up not doing it because, like, he was able to get Timmy's cabin declared a historical landmark.
Yeah, it's so funny because a lot of this episode, and I'm presuming the surrounding narrative of this arc, is basically Glossman versus Tom, and, like, I don't know exactly why Glossman doesn't like Tom specifically, other than the fact that, like, he's wanted to do stuff and Tom has gotten in the way.
Yeah.
And I guess that's it. I mean, I guess that's enough.
Yeah, they get to be people at odds.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, we know, like, Tom is is portrayed, especially in this episode, as, like, being a very good person who wants what's best, and Glossman's trying to line his own pockets. You know, he was working with Blackgaard back in, you know, the battle and all of that stuff to get Blackgaard's castle in place. Like, there's stuff like that. Glossman's just always kind of had this seedier side to him, whereas, you know, Tom's a good person.
Yeah, well, and he also has, like, a lot thicker of a mask than Maxwell does, whereas Maxwell's just like, yeah, I'm greasy, but, like, what are you gonna do about it? Whereas Glossman's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I mean, yes. I know I'm bad, and you know I'm bad, but, like, you can't really prove it.
So yeah, and it's perfectly explained when Tom comes to the door and is just like, Glossman, what are you doing here? Glossman's just got this beautifully sarcastic, now you see, it's the warmth of our relationship I appreciate so much.
It's so good.
Oh man,
see,
McCusker.
Yeah.
Why are you so good in this role?
Yeah, it's kind of mildly concerning, but you know.
Oh, it's
I love it.
It's really great. And so then he introduces his two, I think Tom refers to them as like goons or henchmen or something. And he's like, no, this is Agent Furter.
Yep.
And Tom's like, as in Frank?
Yeah.
He's like, no, this is Bert Furter. This is Agent Frank.
Yeah.
Frank Ernest.
Which is a good bit.
It is a good bit. And also,
are those real people?
No, but
okay.
So it's Frank Furter. If you like swap the two first names, it's Frank Furter and it's Bert Ernest, which is nearly Bert and Ernie.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. That's very interesting. Was that intentional? I feel like it must be.
Maybe that was intentional, but the Frankfurter joke is just quality.
Oh, it lands.
Like Glossman doesn't even like miss a beat.
No.
Or he's like, no, this isn't. No, this is Bert Furter.
Yeah.
Frank is the other guy.
Frank is the other guy. So basically, then what happens is we have just catch up from what we were talking about, the One Bad Apple episode, where he's like, well, we're here from the Environmental Protection Agency.
No. The Environmental Protection Agency is a real thing.
Yeah.
They are from the Environmental Detection Agency, which is not that at all, right?
Oh. Oh my.
It's a very specific move by Odyssey to be like, look, I don't know if they literally couldn't or they just didn't want to call themselves the EPA.
Yeah.
But this is the EDA,
yeah.
I guess. So they're not the Environmental Prevention Agency. They're the Environmental Detection Agency.
Exactly.
They're not protection. They're detection. Which is so much more nefarious.
Yes, most definitely. I wonder if it is, like, because it's an interesting move on Odyssey's part, because they were so pro, like, Environmental Protection Agency in the One Bad Apple episode, where it's like, these are the good guys that come in, and now they're like, the good guys are a Trojan horse, and they're here to destroy your lives.
I know. I wonder at what point the decision was made to link this in with, like, to link One Bad Apple into all of this, like, overarching Blackgaard thing that we're doing.
Yeah.
Because that episode on its own doesn't have
anything in
those. Right, it really doesn't have, like, clear ties.
Yeah, well, and then to not include. Sorry. Then to not include the episode, where Tom's barn, or Tom's, like, Timmy's cabin almost gets paved over is a very interesting choice as to what they're including in the Chronicles and what they aren't.
Well, no, I mean, the Timmy's barn thing, aside from having Glossman, doesn't really connect.
That's fair. At least the Edgebiter comes back.
Right, but, like, this storyline needed a scandal.
Yeah.
And rather than creating a new one, they dipped back and used the One Bad Apple episode.
Yeah.
But I don't get the impression that One Bad Apple aired in order to lay the groundwork for this episode.
No, it's not. I think it's
very much like a retrofit.
Yeah, which is so cool. And I think that this particular arc is something that really exemplifies, like, what Odyssey is so good at, which is we've created such a massive world with so many, intertwined character arcs and characters, like, and it's all so well established that you can just do that and dip back in, and it makes sense because we already have this existing world. You don't have to always make something up, especially like what you were saying, like, Tom and Glossman are set up so well to be put opposed to each other because of this and because of the past, and whether they had planned that or not is, I think it's secondary to the fact that, I mean, he shows up, Tom responds negatively, and Glossman replies, with the quip, and it all makes sense to the listener because if you've been listening, you know exactly why their relationship is like this.
Right. And, like, when we were doing the early Blackgaard episodes, we kind of talked about how, like, Blackgaard is Whit's foil and Maxwell's Eugene's foil, and Lucy kind of functions as a Connie foil. We didn't talk about the fact that Glossman is absolutely Tom's foil.
Yeah. Which is so interesting because he's Tom's foil, and then he functions almost as like a puppet master with Bart Rathbone, who's actually the same voice actor. That was the thing when you were going through the cast. I was like, Tom is running against himself as far as voice acting is concerned.
Yes. And that was, I'm sure the show, I mean, the show clearly knew what they were doing there. It's very much the same as like when there's that episode where Mitch and Rodney are both competing or like are both trying to like woo Connie.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, they just wanted a reason to have Steve Burns play two parts doing the same thing. And like we have the same thing here, which is like, why is Bart running against Tom? Because they're both voiced by Walker Edmonston, and that's just fun.
It is fun, and it's also just like, I mean, it fits Tom's character as is established, and it also fits Bart's character to kind of want to seize power for his own personal benefit.
Oh, absolutely. It is like, yeah. And also like we're not seeing it because like we're, because of the way we're doing this series, but it's interesting. Like we basically met Bart 2 episodes ago in like our timeline, but in reality there was 2 years of episodes in between of Bart. And so like he's very well, like where for us it's looking like this guy went from like having a store like not open to now he's running for mayor. But in the reality of the show, he's been doing a lot.
Oh yeah, no,
2 years
so
have passed.
much stuff. There's at least 20 episodes with him in it between Rathbone of Contention and Tom for Mayor. Like there's that whole independent, like the Aloha Oi arc where they go where they go to Hawaii. And that's like that's all about the Rathbones.
Right. And there's a lot of
there's Truth Trivia and Trina. Like there's all the bit with him and Eugene and Katrina.
Yeah. No, and there's other points of Bart kind of having some sort of like he always has a little bit of this like political ambition.
Yeah.
Because there's episodes like 60s something or the Living Nativity episode. Just like there's different points where Bart kind of gets to represent like all that's bad about like the secular world. And so it makes sense to put him, on the other side of this.
Yeah.
Obviously,
as the listener can probably gather at this point, basically the situation is Glossman shows up and they need to test Tom's farm after the Edgebiter Chemical Company, and Tom's like, oh, well, they already came. They already, they did a real good job. They moved their factory. There's no more of that. And Glossman's like, well, I just have to do my job, so you can't really work here at all. And so then Tom goes to Wit's End, right?
Yeah. So no.
Oh,
Tom
then
goes
he goes
from there
to the
to talk to Mayor Bill Jenkins.
Yep.
So the thing with Glossman is like he got a
court order.
He's working at the state capitol.
Yeah.
And he got this court order to like investigate, see if there are any chemicals from the spill, and close down the farm if need be. And they do a good job of kind of jokingly working around it, where where Tom just says like in reference to the Edgebiter thing, that happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
Rather than being like, oh, that was 4 years ago, because we got to always be a little bit wishy-washy with the
ambiguous
with the
timelines. We love those. And it's all super good. So he's talking to Bill Jenkins, and Bill's like, well, we just kind of have our hands tied. Like they have a court order. It's above me. Like there's really nothing I can do. And so that's when he goes back to Wit's End, right after that.
Well, so Bill agrees that he's going to make a call to the Capitol about this whole thing, and then Tom leaves. And we get to hear Bill have the conversation where he's just like,
a one-sided telephone call.
Yes, where this isn't anything I agreed to.
Yeah.
Like
the police.
This is more than we're. That's who you are.
Have fun lining those audios up.
Yeah, so we get this idea that, like, he kind of knew some of what was going on.
Yeah.
But, like, he's getting more than what he bargained for.
Yeah.
And so he's like, all right, this wasn't part of the deal. If I've got to get out of it, then I will.
Yeah.
And then we go to what, like, this next scene is masterful.
Yeah. No, it's really good.
It almost was like, and this is going to sound like a ridiculously high compliment, but he was almost Aaron Sorkin-esque.
Okay.
Where, like,
Yeah.
we're juggling all of this stuff at once, and it's so good. Like,
Yeah. It feels
There
like
are-
you're watching a real-time thing that's happening. Like, you're just a fly on the wall watching all of this happen, and even though a lot is happening all at the same time, nothing is lost, and you can follow it beautifully, and it all beautifully blends into each other.
yeah. So we jump to the scene, and it's Sam shows up and is with a video camera. And Jack and Connie and Eugene are kind of talking about stuff at Wit's End.
Yeah.
So Sam's kind of filming some of that. Connie has this whole thing where she's having a bad hair day and doesn't want to be on film
Yeah.
because she's a woman.
Great writing,
and
thanks.
yeah, and Eugene is just doing, like, his kind of obnoxious Eugene thing.
I'm super smart.
And then as they're having these conversations, we hear Bernard and Tom walk into it from a distance, and they're mid-conversation talking about all of the Glossman stuff.
Yeah, and all the
and
edge
then,
fighter
like,
situation.
Right, and so they're discussing this whole thing, and, you know, Bernard's being like, okay, like, Tom, you gotta fight this, and then they fill in Connie and Eugene, and then Connie and Eugene get to fill in Jack.
Yeah.
And they all kind of jump around, filling in what was happening there.
Well, and that's the great thing about Jack being there, because that gives them an excuse to kind of rehash everything that's happened with
Yes,
Tom
very
and
much
Glossman
so.
in the past.
Yeah, and so they do, like, the whole rundown
Yeah.
for Jack, and Tom really downplays the whole Edgebiter thing, where he was like, "Oh yeah, there was some,
Well,
like,
that's
chemicals
what is-
accidentally spilled
Yeah.
that, like, made it onto my land," and I was like, "It was a much bigger deal than that, Tom."
Yeah, well, especially when it first happened, he was quite upset.
Yeah.
So, but no, I
And-
think it's
right,
super
like, I get-
well done. Like, I think Odyssey does expositional dialogue pretty well as a whole, but sometimes
Yes.
it dips down in quality, and this one's, like, real good. And
Yeah.
it's all
And-
just super well done in, like, we've created this environment that is Wit's End that allows people to just talk all the time, and anybody can talk about anything, and it makes sense within the context of the show, because that's what Wit's End is for.
Yeah, and so, like, they're having this conversation, and Bernard is being, like, really outspoken against Bill Jenkins.
Yeah.
And
You
just
mean
kind of
Jenkins
like,
or Glossman?
Jenkins.
Oh, okay.
He's genuinely like, oh, like, what did you expect going to? Because Tom brings up that he went to Jenkins to try and do this, and Bernard's very much like, well, what did you expect? Like, that guy doesn't do anything. Like,
Yeah.
it's very, like, you know, talking down about someone who's in government authority, which
Yeah, it's
is
the
a
whole, like,
bold
government
move.
doesn't do anything trope.
Yeah, which is very
Odyssey.
no. Well,
Connie's made that joke a couple times.
yeah, no. It is. I don't know. There's this weird conflict within Odyssey though, which is like they are like so like USA,
Yeah.
but they also like love making cracks at like the government officials not actually accomplishing anything.
Yeah.
And it's a weird thing where I'm like,
They're pro everything that they like.
yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
as redundant as that is, they're
right.
Yeah.
And so while this exchange is going on, we hear the radio in the background.
Is it the radio or is it the TV? Because in my head it was a TV.
I thought it was a TV as well, but then they do say radio.
Yeah, and I don't think that Wit's End has a TV.
Probably not. because, Satan.
Yeah.
And so
The devil.
Yeah, as it goes. So it's really, really great because the conversation continues with that playing in the background, and you as a listener can listen to one or the other, and then they address like, oh wait, did you guys just hear that?
Yeah.
And then and then everyone turns and listens to the radio, and it's Bill Jenkins resigning as mayor, saying that he wants to spend more time with his family, specifically his grandchildren.
Yeah.
And it's just this moment of like, oh, like the Tom's like, well, I talked to him this morning and things seemed like fine. Like this is
Very
crazy.
out of character.
And it's really well sound engineered. It's just like, it's a super engaging scene. And there's this great thing in this scene, which is just all of these characters being there together. I mean, like Sam, whatever, but like Tom Riley,
Eugene,
Bernard Walton, Connie and Eugene, and Jack, who's a newcomer to the group, but still, like, these are 5, like...
This is the all-star team, basically, with the exception
It
of
is. It's like, it's all of our main players at this point in the show, all sharing a scene together in a way that, like, Odyssey basically never has more than 2 or 3 of these people in an episode.
Yeah.
Like, at the point at which Connie becomes as big a deal as Connie is now, they never really have more than 3.
Yeah. Is that a finance thing?
It's gotta be. I mean, like, that, just like logistics-wise, it makes sense that you don't throw your 5 big stars into the same episode.
Yeah.
And so it really stood out in this episode of like, oh wow, like they pulled in everyone. They're all here. Like, I don't know who else you would add to that mix.
Yeah. I don't think that you would. I think that, and with the exception of Wit, they're all gone, and the kids they aren't really concerned with. The only thing is Sam, who's there tangentially.
Right. Yeah. Sam is the only kid in this episode, and he's barely in it.
Do we even have Wooten at this point? Wooten would be the only person I think that would just pop in.
Wooten comes in like near the end of Novacom.
Yeah.
We covered all that.
Yeah, good.
So very quickly, the conversation is Bernard kind of pitching the idea of Tom being mayor.
And Tom's initially pretty resistant, but
very much so.
He's like, no, like that's not for me. I barely have time for it as it is. And then, Bernard basically claps back by saying, well, like if your farm gets shut down, which, with Glossman might happen, you'll have plenty of time.
That is the craziest argument.
Yeah. If you get your entire livelihood taken away, you'll have plenty of time. That's some coronavirus stuff right there.
It's so stupid. It's like...
Anybody want to run for public office now that we're all trapped at home?
Seriously, though. Do it.
Nope. Could you imagine me in a position of political authority?
No, you've already said so many cancelable things, Andrew.
Yeah, I know. It's a problem.
It's amazing you're still allowed to run this podcast.
I was gonna say I would have to delete my entire internet presence.
Oof. Which,
I think the internet would probably be, to gain from that, but also
but you would be to lose.
It's true.
So yeah, and
Eugene basically says if you become mayor, you won't have to be a councilman, and Tom is it would take something worse than Glossman, is what he says, to convince him to run. And then later it's found out that Bart is running.
I mean, it's literally the next scene.
Oh, it's the next scene?
It goes out on the line of, it would take something even worse than Glossman to make me run for mayor. And we do a musical interlude, and Bart is announcing his candidacy.
Yep. And it's so good.
It is amazing.
I am the man with big feet.
That thing is so weird.
I know. I feel like we could have a whole podcast just talking about Bart and, like, his campaign bits, because they're so good. Like, his faux campaign ads and all that. Oh, my gosh, it's so good.
But, yeah, he has this whole monologue about feet and shoes, and it's really weird and convoluted, and announces his candidacy through that.
Yep. I am throwing my hat in the ring for mayor.
Yes. No, I'm throwing my hat in the ring of shoes.
Oh, yes.
Because these boots are made for walking and carrying a big stick, and I'm no heel.
Yep. That's it. That's the line.
And the great thing,
that would happen if I ran for office, people.
Yeah. The great runner is him always taking a moment out of his campaign to advertise for the Electric Palace.
Which is exactly what would happen for me, except for it would be the Andrew Sabo podcast. Or the Wad Fam Chalk Pod. Probably both.
Yeah.
Don't worry, guys. No matter if I get political office, the pod will never end.
Oh, no. I will not commit to that. And so, eventually we will run out of episodes.
That's true. That is true.
Because we can only cover, like, 50 in a year, and they only put out, like, 24. So at some point
there will be no more Odyssey for us to cover.
But it's gonna take over a decade, and also I will not. Nope.
I will probably have kids by then.
Oh yeah, no.
Actually, I really hope I don't have. Well, if I'm 29 and I have kids, I'd be cool with that.
I forgot how young you are.
Yeah, that's true.
2 years younger than me.
A whole, like, 700 and something days.
Wow. So we then jump to Tom's farm, where Bernard comes over. Tom's hanging out with his horse, Little Joe,
who's not so little anymore.
No, new horse. New horse, who dis? Is that a joke?
Yes.
So Bernard's kind of like, all right, Tom, like, what's it gonna take? And Tom's like, I'm kind of like waiting for some sort of sign from God. And Bernard's like, well, look, I'll give you 3 right here. Glossman's back, Bart's running, the mayor resigned.
Yeah.
Like, what more do you need? And we've talked a lot about the whole, like, God's will thing on this show. And I really appreciate Bernard in that moment, just being like, yeah, you can wait around for the perfect sign. You can also just take stock of the current situation and be like, maybe this is pointing me in a direction.
Well, exactly. And, like, I think as far as the whole divine will of God is concerned, it's less of a checklist of things and more of a, submitting yourself every day to him and letting him dictate your thoughts and actions, and it's a lot more of not walking in what he's already planned out, but a lot more of letting him lay the path before you as you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. No, I'm with you on that. And so Tom just talks about the fact that, like, he really doesn't want political power. Like, this doesn't appeal to him. And Bernard's like, that's exactly why you should do it, man. And that is a delightfully refreshing thing. Yeah. I mean, I know it's like this idyllic thing that's never, like, can't really happen in the real world. But also, like, oh man, it's 2020. I hate politicians. Yeah. And I'm so into a guy being like, I'm gonna run for the good of the people, because, that's not the way things actually work in reality.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people that get into politics for that reason end up getting distracted from it. It's a whole other machine that they get caught up in, and it becomes really hard to see what purpose the machine is actually supposed to be, serving. So
Yep.
it's hard. I mean, I don't think that I could, to be honest with you, if I were to, do something like that, which is something that I've genuinely considered before, is going into some sort of like political office, but then I was like, Andrew, you say so much stupid stuff. That would be a terrible, terrible, terrible idea.
Yeah.
Just be like, I think we all need to just calm down.
And so and then Bernard shows Tom that like he got hundreds of signatures from people around town.
Yep.
Kind of endorsing Tom, or at least showing support, saying, like we would vote for you in this, which Tom's blown away by.
Yeah. And
it's just like, it's a good show of support because he's not feeling super confident in the moment.
Yep. And then he makes a really good call of stopping to pray before they begin everything.
Yeah. So he agrees to come on to do this, to run for mayor.
Yep.
And Bernard offers to be his campaign manager, which is incredible.
Yeah.
And
Squeegee Toten Bernard Walton is your campaign manager, your political strategist.
Yep. Andrew, will you be the Bernard to my Tom?
Any day. Dylan, you'd be a good politician.
I don't like that at all.
Honestly, I think the prerequisite to being a politician is having basic common sense and also just not talking too much. And I lack both of those, but you seem to be doing quite well in both departments.
I don't know. I talk a lot, man.
Less than me, though.
That is a low bar.
That's right. I'm drowning out the depression.
Oof. So then they pray together. Tom's like, all right, before we go any further, let's
in a very wit move.
Let's pray. Yeah, in a really nice move.
Mm-hmm.
I love the moments where the show takes to take a step back, slow down before we like go into crazy town.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also the fact that it makes it, I think it's realistic in the sense that like God needs to be invited in and brought into your everyday lives, like there are episodes that are structured around presenting biblical truth and with these characters as examples, whereas these characters are normal people and they're functioning as normal people, but they're still bringing God in, and it just, whether there's a Bible verse that ties it up all nicely or not, it doesn't really matter. It's just showing that like, no, if you see these people as wise and you want to follow in their footsteps and you want to love God like they love God, then this is what it looks like, and that's bringing him into everything that you do, and taking a pause before you begin something to just be like, okay, well, God, I'm about to do a thing. Please keep me safe. Please guide me and let me function as you would like me to,
Yeah. And so then we go to commercial break in Odyssey, and when we come back, we're on a commercial break in the show, which is a campaign ad from Bart that is just quality comedy.
It's dynamite. It's so good. Without a future, there is nothing to look forward to. And like the whole like Bart Rathbone for mayor, Yep. And then it cuts to like kind of like the I don't want to say redneck, but like the podunk like, and come by the Electric Palace for blah blah blah.
Yeah. Yep.
So good.
And then we go to Tom, who's like sitting on a wooden porch with not acoustic guitar music,
ukulele.
But ukulele music, because Eugene's our only musician in the show.
Yep.
Playing ukulele in the background.
And it's amazing.
Oh, it is amazing. And Tom's just like, yeah, I'm down to earth and a good person, and I'm not going to make a bunch of promises like my opponents.
Yep. Yeah, no. Well, and
it's
does
just like
Bart
it
attack
conjures
him in his ad?
No, Bart attacks him later, I
Oh,
think.
okay.
But he might attack him in the ad. I don't think so, though. I think
He makes
attacks him
jabs
on
at him when he announces his candidacy.
Right. Yep. And,
That's
So,
is Tom? Do we
Tom-
know for a
Tom's
fact that
ad is
Tom's on
like-
his porch in a rocking chair?
No, but, like, the visuals are there. Like,
Yeah.
this scene conjures such perfect visuals.
I'm glad that you thought that too, because like that's exactly it's like the hi, I'm down to earth. I've got a glass of iced tea here, and
Yes,
this is my
it
dog.
is iced tea. You're right.
You know,
He's got a dog at his feet.
Yeah.
And there's
rocking back and forth.
there's ukulele music going on in
Yeah.
the background. And yeah, it's great.
I'm a man of the people.
And then we actually, like, we don't hear the end of that ad. We just hear, like, Bernard tripping over Sam.
Yeah.
Who's filming all this for a documentary he's making about the mayoral race, which is a weird runner, but, like, yeah, I'm here for it.
Oh yeah, you know what? Go for it. I don't think there's enough independent filmmakers in Odyssey.
Truly.
How very Casey Neistat of him. A joke that maybe 2 other people will understand.
Hey, there you go. And then we find out that Jack has agreed to take care of Tom's horses while
Yep.
Tom's all busy.
Yep.
And Jack. And then we cut over to Jack trying to do so as he and Glossman have this conversation where Glossman is being Glossman, and Jack's trying to figure out what that means as he hasn't met the man before.
Yeah, he's like, oh, you know, if I looked them up, they would know who they are. And he's like, yeah, they would. He's like, huh, well, have a nice day. And then he just rides off.
Yeah. Yep. And then we stick around to hear Glossman get mad because the water is clean.
Yep.
And that they've been helping Tom's business and his campaign. Like, both those things are going well because it looks like Tom's getting, like, beaten down, and so people are rallying around to support him. And they're mad about this.
Yep. No, they're very mad.
And he's like, we have to
Plan
do
B.
something. Yep. Missing in action. And so, and then we cut to Andrew. Do you want to do the honors
the Crying Brian Dern Show.
with Bart Rathbun?
Rathbun.
And,
owner of the Electric Palace, which is a sponsor of this show, but we will ask him some hard-hitting questions.
Yeah.
Is your
and they
hair
actu-
real?
And they actually, he makes the joke about the real hair, but then he actually does do some, like, half-decent confrontation.
Oh, yeah. He's like, well, you really haven't talked about any issues. And he's like, yes, I have. They're all in my ads. And then Brian Dern's like,
Yeah.
not really.
Yeah, I transcribed a lot of what Bart says here.
Go for it.
No angles, Brian. I'm trying to run a campaign that'll talk to the issues, not the personalities.
Yep.
It's time for a new beginning, a fresh start. The issue is that we need a change in our city government, and I am going to make those changes. And then Crying Brian interjects and says, what kinds of changes? And then Bart says this, the best kinds of changes. What do you think? I'm going to increase what the government does for you while I lower taxes. I'm going to make sure that everybody can get what they want when they want it without it costing anybody anything. I'm going to push ahead on everybody's rights. I'm going to knock the teeth out of crime by hitting it where it hurts. I'm going to make Odyssey great again.
Wait, does he actually say that?
He doesn't. That was my addition.
Oh my gosh. That was like, oh my gosh, how did I miss that? Oh my gosh, how did I miss that?
But seriously,
No,
that's how that sentence goes.
that's our president.
He says the best kinds of changes.
Yep.
The best kinds of... What kind of changes are you going to make? The best kinds of
only the
changes.
best.
My changes are the best, and I'm...
The other guy's changes, those were the worst changes in the history of
Yeah.
changes. Like, my changes.
Yeah. Yep, you
Best
guys aren't
changes.
going to get any of that. Oh, he does say, but you guys aren't going to
huge.
get any of that stuff if Tom Riley becomes mayor. But, yeah,
Yeah.
it is, it's very,
Yeah. It hits a little close to home.
It does. It really does. Like, they're doing they're doing Bart Rathbone as this like caricature about everything bad about politicians.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately
is our president.
isn't too dissimilar to our current situation.
Which, regardless of which aisle of the political discourse you fall on, I feel like we can all recognize that this is a little bit closer than I'm comfortable with.
Yeah. To the point where Andrew was like, wait, did he say make Odyssey great again? I'd believe that.
I would have believed it, and I wouldn't have been surprised if I had missed it.
So yeah. Brian then is like, so like you think you're gonna do all this better than Tom?
So you think
like,
you can run for political office?
Yeah. And then he's like, yeah, let's do a debate.
Mm-hmm.
Friday night. We're gonna debate.
The gauntlet's laid out.
Yep. And it cuts back to Wits End where they're all the squad's all gathered around listening.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom agrees to do this debate after some deliberation. But kind of under the guise of like, yeah, we can make Bart look like a fool. That's not going to be hard.
Yeah. Which I get, and I don't know if this is just me, but I get a very distinct, like, kind of like Tom is like a boxer, and this is like a Rocky situation where they're just like rubbing his shoulders, and he's like beating his head with these gloves, and he's like, all right, let me at him, let's go.
Yep. And then we go out on a press conference that Glossman is holding, where he announces that Tom's farm is being quarantined. That word was triggering.
Yep.
And his apples are being recalled because they found toxic chemicals in the stream.
Yep. And that's the end of the episode. There's not even an outro. It's just full stop.
Andrew, say what I'm going to say before I say it.
I don't know, actually.
It's like he doesn't even listen to me, folks.
I do.
Everyone at home, say this along with me. There isn't an outro on the album version, but there was on the radio.
Oh, you're right. I'm so sorry, friends. I don't deserve to host the show. I'm so sorry. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned.
So there's that.
And completely tangentially, this episode was only rated a 94 on the AIO wiki, which is surprisingly low. Because it's a great episode.
It is. It is a great episode. I like it so much.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to talk about the next one. Yeah. This episode gave me like gave me a good blend of like, it's a lot of plot, but there's also stuff to talk about, so it's not just plot recap.
Yeah.
It's really well acted and engineered and plotted, and
it's just so good. Like, this is such a good arc. And, like, it's better than Novacom as far as, like, I don't think that there's a single two-parter in Novacom that's as good as Tom for Mayor. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, we'll have to make that decision after we listen to
we should
part
put out
2.
a Twitter poll or something like that.
And get one person's contributions. We don't have much of a Twitter following, Andrew.
We could, though.
That's true. Follow us on Twitter. That's my plug for the week.
Actually, my plug is for my TikTok because I blew up.
Oh, no.
I posted one TikTok like just randomly, and it got like 500 views.
Oh, no. All right. You're gonna send me the link, and I'll put it in the show notes.
Heck yeah, it's family friendly. No swearing on my TikTok yet.
All right. Are you gonna start the WadFam Chalk Pod TikTok as we joked about?
I feel like I have to. At this point,
a month ago.
I'm pretty sure my username's just Andrew Acebo, so there you go.
Okay. I'll do what I can.
In all seriousness, though, I would like to talk to the squad for just a hot moment about the current health situation that the world is facing, and I just want to say I'm really sorry that we're all going through this, and it really sucks. And yeah, I'm really sorry, but even from your weekly Adventures in Odyssey podcast, we're all going through it together, And while we all have different experiences and we all have different quarantine lives, I mean, I'm incredibly blessed to have a wonderful, loving family that I get to spend a lot of time with. But even them, it's far from perfect. So yeah, I just wanted to say that, you're not alone in what you're feeling, and what you're feeling right now is really valid. But as a Christian audience, I would just, try to encourage you to draw close to God in this time, because it's really serious, and it's really scary. Self-isolate as much as you can, self-quarantine as much as you can. Take it seriously. If you don't think it's serious, just look at Italy. Watch any YouTube video on it. I mean, it's horrifying, and I don't think it's going to get that bad here, but if it does, it's going to be because people don't take it seriously. So, yeah. Sorry to end on such a downer, but I just feel like I had to say that.
No, that's fair. Aside from just, echoing everything Andrew said, I do have a different kind of plug, but one that I think is fun. So one of our listeners, Johnny Youngblood, threw together a really, really good thread after last episode on Twitter, breaking down the age of Lucy. Mm-hmm. It's fantastic. Our Twitter account retweeted it, but I'm also going to throw the link in the show notes for this one. Just go and take a look at that if you can. Johnny did a really good job on it. I really appreciate their effort. And so it's a good read. I had a blast with it. So if you get the chance, head that direction.
There you go. All right, I'll have to do that.
And provided the world still exists, we'll be back here next week with episode 287, Tom for Mayor, Part 2.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye, Andrew.
WadFam Chalk Pod is a presentation of the Lidditz Podcast Co-op. This show is a fan podcast and has no official affiliation with Adventures in Odyssey or Focus on the Family. As such, the copyright is ours under Creative Commons. Follow the podcast at WadFamChalkPod on Twitter and Instagram, or email us at wadfamchalkpod@gmail.com. Tom for Mayor Part 1 was hosted by Dylan Weaver and Andrew Acebo and edited by Dylan Weaver. And I'm Nathan Haverstick, hoping you'll join us again next time for more of the WadFam Chalk Pod.